In a world where creepypastas are deleted before you can say Jeff the Killer, only one man can save them from a fate worse than death. Behold, Umby's World presents Deleted Creepypasta Theater. There's this lab. Nobody really knows about it because it was founded by a man who had connections with the government and enough influence to keep them hushed about it. The scientists in the lab had decided to illegally hold a human test subject, a girl whose parents had received a large amount of money to hand over to the scientists. Many tests were performed on the girl over several years, so many that she started to have strange reactions to pain. Sometimes an injection of some horrible type of acid or something of the sort wouldn't even faze her. One day on May 1st of 2011, 4 years after she was taken into custody by the scientists, they discovered that someone had been taking supplies, toxins, and radioactive chemicals from the lab storage room. The scientists rushed to the holding cell, where the girl was strapped to a stainless steel table, metal cuffs around her neck, wrists, ankles, and stomach. The scientists immediately tried to take a blood sample to check for any modifications to the test subject. But before they could take the sample, the girl whispered something. Her voice was raspy from lack of oxygen and the cuff around her neck. She whispered, "Creeper, morph." The scientists were shocked when half of her face suddenly became much paler, stark white even. One eye was round and blank white with dark circles around it, and one side of her mouth stretched into a horrifying grin that stretched curled up over her cheek and stopped at about nose height. She snapped her cuffs. Most just broke, but the one around her neck stayed on and just came off of the table. The scientists tried to escape, but they were killed in a matter of seconds. The half-girl, half-thing burned down the lab, leaving almost no survivors. But those who did survive are still on the search for the girl who they've come to have named Splittah, for her face split in half. One side human, one side a demonic, nameless creature.
Hello, my name is Jackson May. I'm 38 years old. I was a law enforcement officer. I had a wife and 2 beautiful children. They're gone now. Aww. I'm typing this because I need you to hear my story. I don't have much time. It's nearly midnight. Soon that thing will be back, I'm sure of it. My nightmare started only a few days ago. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon. I sipped a cup of coffee as I read the newest novel that had caught my attention. My wife, Angela, was serving some sandwiches to my 2 children, Sam and Brittany.
Honey, can you run to the store really quick? I need butter, apple juice, and bananas. And we're nearly out!
Angela said. I smiled and got up from the table. Of course, I'll be back in 20 minutes, I said. Sam tugged on my shirt sleeve.
Can you buy some ice cream, please?
He said. I chuckled and ruffled his hair. I'll see what I can do, sport, I said before grabbing my jacket and heading out the door. I got into my car and started driving to the store. As I was passing a small alley, I thought I saw a shadowy shape reflected in my rearview mirror, but it disappeared in an instant. I shrugged it off and continued to the store. I bought my items and went back to my car. On the way home, I began lost in my thoughts, and I guess I must have dozed off, something very uncharacteristic of me, because I didn't notice the white flash that sped in front of my car. I tried to swerve, but it was too late. I hit the pale figure, and my car skidded to a halt. I jumped out and ran to the front of the car. What I saw laying there made me stop in my tracks. It was small and pale, not human, so skinny it couldn't be alive. But what terrified me most was its face. The thing's mouth was permanently stitched into an oversized smile spreading across its face. Its eyes were white, hollow orbs ringed with black. It had what looked like the top of an oversized bolt stuck in its head. I reeled back. I fumbled with my phone and finally managed to call 911. "Hello, I just had a crash," I said. I told the police my location, but something stopped me from mentioning the thing that I had hit. Eventually, the police came with a pickup truck. We assessed the damage.
"I don't know what you hit, but it must have been made of titanium,"
the policeman exclaimed. Suddenly, I noticed that the small pale thing that I had hit was nowhere to be seen. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears, and everything around me seemed to slow down. Suddenly, in my head, I heard a voice that made icy fingers creep up my spine.
You hurt my friend. You'll never get to your resting place, Jackson.
I don't know what compelled me, but I spun around. There, standing at the mouth of a small alley, was a young girl. She had tan skin, and her short black hair hung in her face so I couldn't see her eyes. She was holding the hand of the horrible creature that I had hit. The voice kept screaming the same phrase over and over in my head.
You hurt my friend. You'll never get to your resting place.
I shut my eyes tight, and when I opened them again, the little girl and the terrifying creature were gone. I turned around trying to convince myself that it was only my imagination. When the policemen were done, it must have been past midnight. I pulled my thin jacket closer and started home. I felt uneasy. Something was wrong. I found myself walking faster, finally breaking into a run. By the time I was outside my front door, I was panting and sweating despite the cold night air. I flung open my door, and my heart stopped. The hallway was covered in words.
"Written in blood."
The same phrase repeated.
You hurt my friend. You'll never get to your resting place.
I rushed into the living room and fell to my knees. My family lay there dead. Sam's hair dripped with blood. A knife stuck out of the top of his head. The sight of Brittany made me sick. Her stomach was split open. Her intestines spilled over her pale skin. I looked towards my wife. She had been strangled, a rusty chain wrapped tightly around her neck, cutting into her skin, and her face was bloated and blue. Pushed past the limit, I called 911 for the second time that day and summoned them to my house. I waited for them, and when they arrived, I just couldn't stand being there anymore. I hailed a taxi to take me somewhere, anywhere, as long as it was far away from that house. The whole time I heard that horrible voice in my head. Eventually, the taxi arrived at a hotel. I checked in and found my room, collapsing on the bed. I laid there, mourning, wishing that I had done something. At last, I fell asleep, not even bothering to
Change out of my clothes.
I woke up the next day, determined to get on with my life. I ate breakfast, watched some television, and called my job to let them know I was taking a couple of days off. My boss was sympathetic, thank God. That's how my day went. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, not aware of anything around me. I looked over at the electric clock on my bedside. It read 11:59. I watched it until it changed to 12 o'clock, and suddenly I heard something under my bed.
Hello?
Paralyzed, I lay there, unable to call out or grab a weapon to defend myself. Suddenly a figure stood up right next to my bed, looming over me. I made a small, whimpering sound. The thing looked like the strange creature that I had hit with my car, except its face had become even more disturbing, if possible. Its face was split in two, not literally, but one side of its face looked like I remembered it, except its stitched-up grin was no longer sewed shut. It was open, and the thing's pointed teeth dripped with black liquid. The other half of the creature's face looked more normal, but I think it frightened me more. It looked like the girl I saw in the alley. Her eyes glinted with a twisted playfulness. Even though her mouth wasn't stretched into a Cheshire cat-like grin, she was smiling malevolently. A chain hung around the thing's thin neck.
You'll never get to your resting place,
the thing hissed in a voice that didn't seem human. I unfroze and tried to punch it, but it easily dodged me. It was just toying with me. I was about to yell for help when the thing shoved something in my face. I knocked it off and looked at it. It was a severed hand! With a ring on its index finger! My wife's promise ring! I turned to the thing, but it had already disappeared. I threw the hand away and finally sank into a restless sleep. Every night from then on, that thing visits me, always at midnight, always in that deformed state that's half demonic creature, half young girl. I hear its voice wherever I go. I see its shadow stalking me. It's driving me insane, and I can't make it leave me alone. One evening I refused to go to sleep. I sat at my hotel room desk, staring out the window. Finally, I got up the nerve to pull out my laptop that I saved from the wreckage. I opened a new text file and wrote, May 11th, 2011, 11:37 p.m. at the top. This is what I've been writing for the past half an hour. I don't know why I felt so desperate to share my story, but I need help. That thing is destroying me. Right now the time is 11:59. I just heard a noise coming from under my bed. My paranoia has grown to an unhealthy level in the past few days. The time is 12 o'clock. The thing is here again.
ashes to ashes, bones to paste. You'll never get to your resting place.
Ashes to ashes, bone to paste. You'll never get to your resting place. I'm going crazy at a breakneck pace, cause I got a freaky monster on the side of my face. Ashes to ashes, bone to paste. You'll never get to your resting place. I'm going crazy at a breakneck pace, cause I got a freaky monster on the side of my face. When my parents sold me to those scientists, I bet they never thought that I'd end up like this. A creepy murderer, killing for fun. Thanks to those experiments, I don't need a gun, fool. Two-faced like a Batman villain, killing motherfuckers till I get my fill-in. Hurt my buddy and you're going to pay. Bloody revenge is my forte. They shot me up with mysterious injections. Wanna find my parents, but I don't got no directions. So I just wander, killing whoever. Picture me giving a damn, I said never. Check out this crazy grin. Don't bother struggling, cause you can't win. Say goodbye to your family, son, cause the Splittah is a-coming and there's nowhere to run. Ashes to ashes, bone to paste. You'll never get to your resting place. I'm going crazy at a breakneck pace, cause I got a freaky monster on the side of my face. Ashes to ashes, bone to paste. You'll never get to your resting place. I'm going crazy at a breakneck pace, cause I got a freaky monster on the side of my face, fool.